The news headline: Mr. Femi Falana opens up a secret meeting with Funtua over Sowore. A leading rights advocate and senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, on Thursday opened up on the secret meeting he had with the late Isa Funtua during the detention of media personality Omoyele Sowore by the Department of State Service. Sowore and a presidential spokesman, Garba Shehu, had been in the public arena splashing mud over Funtua's role in the aborted negotiation of Sowore's freedom. While Sowore painted the picture of a valiant for the late president's friend, Garba insisted he was a patriot who should be allowed to rest in peace. Falana, Sowore's lawyer, however, took an unflattering image of Funtua away from the meeting he had with him in Igbo, essentially tagging Shehu a purveyor of lies. He said, in a deliberate attempt to distort the proceedings of the secret meeting held by the representatives of media publishers and officials of the presidency with Mr Omoyele Sowore in the dungeon of the State Security Service last year, Mr Garba Shehu had continued to give the highly erroneous impression that this deal struck with the captive was frustrated by his lawyer. Mr. Shehu ought to have published the terms of resolution which he claimed that Mr. Sowore had accepted, instead of blaming the collapse of the fence-mending process of the intransigence of his lawyer. However, whoever that was, I confirmed that I held a meeting with the trio referred to by Mr. Shehu, even though he did not mention my name. Hence, I'm compelled to react to a couple of issues raised in the incendiary accounts, more so that he did not attend the Lagos meeting. For reasons best known to Mr. Shehu, he refused to inform the Nigerian people that I rejected the gratuitous request to prevail on Mr. Sowore to apologize to Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari and write an undertaking to desist from further embarrassing the federal government. Apart from insisting that my client had committed no offense by exercising his freedom of expression over the perilous state of the nation, I expressed my personal agony over the request because I won the legal battle, wherein the Court of Appeal had upheld the fundamental rights of the Nigerian people to protest against the government without a police permit. Mr. Shehu ought to have equally disclosed that I demanded an unconditional release of my client from the unlawful incarceration of the State Security Service. In fact, when the late Alhaji Isa Funtua said rather concedingly at the Lagos meeting that the regime in power could not be defeated, I was quick to remind him that the Nigerian people had defeated military dictators to pave way for the current civilian dispensation. For goodness sake, is Mr. Shehu not aware of the fact that Mr. Sowore was charged with treasonable felony, money laundering and assaulting Mr. President for daring to call the bluff of the federal government? It is interesting to note that I had teamed up with other patriots in 2006 to campaign for the restoration of the liberty of Mr. Garba Shehu, who was then the spokesman of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, when he was detained by the State Security Service and charged before the Federal High Court with the offense of obtaining and reproducing keeping classified materials in contravention of the Official Secret Acts. Happily, the charge filed against Mr. Garba Shehu by the force of incipient fascism in the country was withdrawn and struck out in his favor. In like manner, the charge of treasonable felony hanging menacingly on the head of Mr. Omoyele, or like a sword of Damocles, will also be struck out in his favor in the fullness of time. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button below.